Okay, so for this next bit we're going to be building up the 6HV tail, and as we haven't seen this tail in any detail in any of the videos so far, I thought it'd be an idea to just give you a look at this just to see how it goes together. It comes completely pre-built, so you are unfortunately, where there are metal to metal screws, going to need to take it apart, put some Loctite on it and then reinstall the screw. Just in case the factory haven't done the Loctiting themselves. But fortunately there aren't actually that many screws that you need to do that for, because a lot of the parts here, as you can see, are plastic and the screws are metal into plastic. But where we have metal to metal screws, we do need to go through and redo the Loctite. Okay, so this piece needs to be fitted onto the end of the boom with the vertical tail fin. And there are some components that we need to retrieve in order to do that. Okay, so I've put the tail blades on, that's all I've done effectively, and then I've threaded the belt through the boom, as you can see here. It's down through the boom, and just placed the gearbox onto the end of the boom. And at this point there's no need to do anything else up on it, because we've got to insert it into the back of our frames before we align the gearbox and all the rest of it. But there are two little screws, one that goes here and one the other side here, and they're designed just to compress gently onto the boom to hold the gearbox in place so it doesn't twist. And I've just taken those out for the moment whilst we're working on it, and we'll need to install those again later. I did go over all the bolts on here as well to check them for Loctite, and they were all Loctited correctly, so pretty good job done from Compass there on the Loctite. But of course you can't trust that your kit will be the same, so you do need to go through exactly the same process as me and take every screw out and check it and put it back in again. Okay, so what we have here is all the stuff that needs to go onto the boom. So these are all push rod guides. This little clamping thing here is what the vertical fin attaches to, and then we've got this clamp here which our horizontal fin and our boom supports attached to. So all this needs to be installed onto the boom, so that's the next thing I'll be doing. Okay, so to start out, here's our vertical tail fin. Two big M3 bolts go through a plastic bracket, and then we've just got some nylock nuts on the other side. Again, this is all just done up finger tight at the moment. We don't want this done up tightly just yet. And then one of the screws that we took out earlier just goes back in there just to secure the fin to the gearbox. So this is just, fairly loosely installed, nothing done up too tight just yet. So the next thing to go on are our push rod supports and the horizontal fin and its clamp, which is exactly the same design as this plastic piece here. Now, one thing to note is that for the horizontal clamp and the vertical clamp there are two sets of screws, and it's the shorter bolts which are used for the vertical fin and the much longer ones, which you see here, which are used for the horizontal fin. Okay, so to give you a view of what I've now done, we've got one of our push rod guides on here, the horizontal fin clamp, as you can see. Get this in camera a little bit better, there we go. And then more push rod supports, and then we've got our belt coming out the other end. So what we can do now is we can put the boom supports onto the bottom here where they belong. Literally just take these nylock nuts off and screw them on loosely, and once we've done that we're almost at a point where we can install the boom into our frames. I think what I'll also do is put the push rod down through the push rod supports as well and connect it up to the tail just before we try and install the boom into the back of the frame. Okay, and there you can see the boom supports, which I've just loosely installed again at this point onto the bottom of the horizontal fin. and I've also now fitted the push rod, as you can see, all the way down onto the back there. Now when you fit the push rod, what you'll find is that one end the ball link is just screwed on gently, and the other end the ball link is screwed all the way down, and you want to put the adjustable end, the one that's going to come off easily, down the back here, and the one that's screwed all the way in, that can go inside the frames on the servo, because you're not going to be playing around with that to adjust your tail. Okay, so that's pretty much all the stuff that we need to install onto the boom now, so we can now look at installing this into the back of our frames. Okay, so as you can see, I've now got the boom into the clamp at the back here. Again, all still loosely fitted, and the belt sticking out the front here. Now you do need to put a 1/4 twist in the belt, and the way you work out which way to do that is if you pull on the belt on the left hand side of the frames, then the tail rotor should rotate the correct direction. So your belt sits in the frames like this. I've got the right hand side of the belt here at the moment. This is the right hand side frame. But if you pull on the belt that's towards the left hand side frame, that should rotate your tail rotor the correct direction, which of course is anti-clockwise. Okay, so I'm now going to start tightening up some of this stuff. You can see down the bottom here, we've got to put our boom stays onto the frames down here, so I've got to put those on, and then go through and just align the horizontal fin and the vertical fin, and just get everything lined up and bolt it into place. Okay, so just to update where we are, I've now tightened up the screws at the back here on the on the vertical fin, and put the 2 bolts in either side on the gearbox here with some thread lock. Now these don't do up all the way in, they're just designed to just clamp onto the boom, so you do them up until they feel tight, but don't do them up all the way, because you'll just squash the boom completely here and then it will wreck your belt. Also, I noticed I'd forgotten to put the washers onto the screws here, and also on the horizontal fin, as you can see. Trying to get this in a shot but struggling. There we go. You can see the washers there. This is still loose, so I can still move this around, because I've still got to do the adjustment on the boom for the belt tightness. Up the other end of the frames, I've now tightened these boom supports up, but aside from that, really not done anything else other than put the main gear in, as you can see. Just place that in with the belt around it, just to keep the belt in the right position really. And this obviously needs to go into the pulley there as well. But the next thing really is to get the main shaft into here, so that we can keep the main gear in there without it moving around, and start thinking about what our tightness needs to be on our boom, because we've got to pull our boom out to get our belt tension, and then do up these 4 bolts. So the next useful thing to put in would be to put the main shaft in, so that we can get the distances set for tightening up the rear of the machine and getting the belt tension right.